Hey everybody, this is Mr. Bestrom again, and today we'll be discussing Chapter 6, Section 2, Measures of Central Tendency. We're mainly going to be discussing the mean, median, and mode, which you may have seen before. We'll define that, give some formulas, and we'll also talk a little bit about frequency distributions. Alright, so what is the mean? You've probably heard the mean. I'm sure you've definitely heard the average. The mean, which is also sometimes referred to as average, is the sum of data values divided by the number of data values. So we're trying to find the average of some number of data values. So for example, right here we have 3, 5, and 8. We just add them together and we divide by the number of them. Now you notice there's 3 of them. So add them up, divide by 3, and we get 5.33 repeating. And when we're going to be calculating means and other measures of center here, we're going to be generally rounding to 1 decimal place further than the least precise original data values. So since these values are all rounded to the ones place, we're going to go 1 more for the mean, which is the tenths place. The median is simply the middle number, or the average of the 2 middle numbers, depending on whether we're talking about an even or an odd number of values. So to find the median, we usually need to take all of our values and put them in either chronological order or order depending on magnitudes, from the smallest magnitude to the largest magnitude. So you see here we have a bunch of numbers. 3, 8, 11, 14, 19, 22, and 25. This is an odd number of values, so we're gonna have a middle number here, because if you notice that 14, there's 3 numbers on each side, and that's our median. Now, if we have an even number of values, for example 2, 9, 14, and 15, notice that there's no single value that's right in the middle. Because if I look at the 9, I have 2 values on the right, 1 on the left. If I look at the 14, I have 1 value on the right and 2 values on the left. So when we have an even number of values, what we do is we take the 2 middle values and we find the mean of those 2 middle values. So we just add them together, divide by 2, which I did right there. And the median of this data set is 11.5. The mode is it's the data value that occurs most often in some set of data. So, for example, of 2, 3, 5, 5, 6, 6, 7, and 9, you notice that both the 5s and the 6s occur twice, and nothing else occurs that often or more. So those would both be the modes of this data set here. If there is no value that occurs most often, then there is no mode. So for example, if you have 1 of every value and nothing repeats, then there's not going to be a mode. Also, right here I give you an example where we have 2 2s, 2 3s, and 2 10s. And because no values occur more than any other value, there's no mode there. So you can either have 1 mode, you can have multiple modes, as in this example, or you can have no modes. Alright, let's take a quick look at a frequency distribution. So a frequency distribution is a table that displays the frequency of various outcomes of a sample. So let's say we have a quiz that we gave in class. We had 30 students. The quiz scores ranged between 11 and 50, and I wanted to kind of break it down to see where most of the students were scoring. So in this specific frequency distribution, what I did was I set 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 classes, all between 11 and 50. And the class size, that means the range of those classes, they all have to be the same for a frequency distribution. So you notice I can add 4 to 11 to get 15. I can add 4 to 16 to get 20. I can add 4 to 21 to get 25, all the way up to 50. And there's a number of different ways that you can create this frequency distribution. This is just one of those ways. Let me go ahead and remove that. The other thing too is I have to make sure that my classes cover every possible value of my quiz scores. So normally we're going to make this after we get our data set, so we know what range our values are. Now once I set up my classes here, then I simply mark it down. So maybe my first grade I looked at was a 13, so I put a little tick right there. My second grade that I looked at was a 35, so I put a little tick right here. And I go through all 30 scores, and then I get what's called a frequency distribution. And after I tally each mark, I will write that as a frequency, and then I can take a look here and say, all right, well, most of my class got somewhere between a 31 and a 40. Because I have 6 there and 6 there. Not too many people got between 11 and a 15. And it gives me an idea of where my data is grouped. All right, so let's take a look at a couple of exercises. The first one is find the mean of the following data values. So if you want to try that on your own, you can pause now and then come back. All right, so what do? We simply use our formula for mean. We add them all up together. I have 10 values, so I divide by 10, and I get 12.5. So the mean or average of our data is 12.5. Exercise number 2. What is the median of the following values? All right, once again, take a second, see if you can do that one. All right, so the solution. First, we have to arrange those values in chronological order, or order depending from the lowest magnitude to the highest. So I've reordered it on this line right here, and I see I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 values. So I have an even number of values, which means that I'm actually going to have to take the two middle numbers and find the average of those two middle numbers. So the two middle numbers here are 8 and 13 because they both have 4 numbers to either side of them. So I add 8 plus 13, divide that by 2 to find the average, and I get 10.5. So 10.5 is going to be the median of that data set. All right, exercise 3. Find the mode of the following values. So once again, take a second. All right, so to find the mode, I simply look to see which value occurs most often. Here I have 2 2s. I keep going. I have 2 9s, so it could possibly be that. But then I have 3 11s. And so 11 occurs more than any other value. So 11 is going to be my mode here. All right, well, that's it. There's some really helpful examples in the book on this chapter and section as well. So make sure you take a look through those. There's also some extra examples using the frequency distribution that are going to be really helpful. And once again, if you have any questions, just shoot me an email or give me a call during my office hours. Thank you and have a great day.